Deep state and deep local. That's our theory. We look at the deep state and see what's happening and see how it's not going to be able to save itself. It's not going to be able to save itself in light of the revolt by Wall Street, the revolt by the financial sector, all the denizens of the gambling casinos making trillions of dollars in the currency exchange markets, which exist only because there is no honest money with which you are paid. You are not paid, and the high calling of currency trading, bringing billionaires afresh, the top 1% getting richer and richer. They are doing well, and the deep state doesn't know exactly how to turn off the party, put the alcohol back in the bottle, and lock the cabinet. Well, my name is David Toulis, and our show is Newonomics.com. And there's a vote, kind of a comment. Well, let's see. I think there was a vote last night or yesterday in the county commission, but there was a clear sign from Hamilton County Mayor Jim Coppinger that the request for $34 million more for the cartel is not going to fly, and it's not going to fly for various reasons. One is that because that system exists, the county budget is double what it would otherwise be. And number two, there is a loss of belief, a slow corrosion in the confidence people have in the public system, though it has been at fault. It has been needing reform since the 1960s, probably since the 1940s even. It's not going to be reformed. It can't be reformed. And always the proposed remedy is something new, right? Something. I remember outcome-based education under Bush Daddy and other. I remember no teacher left behind. Remember that was the Bush sons theory, which was passed in Congress. But the public school is the largest public works program in the county. It has a staff of 6,265 people, and the ostensible clientele are students. There are 42,800 of them, and we have to understand how big the machine is. Okay, it is a cartel. It is a monopoly. It doesn't have to deal with market competition. It does in a way, and on the other hand, it can blithely ignore any competitor because it has a guaranteed income, and that is the $400-some million a year in operating expenses that it consumes. And if you look at the comprehensive annual financial report for the county for 2014, Hamilton County finances 48.8% of its operating outlays. That's $203.15 or $16 million a year, and it has the total budget. The operating budget is $416 million. So this is a cartel that has a guaranteed income, not market-based. Remember, it's guaranteed by you, the taxpayer. And the dole is 6,265 people, probably more than half not involved in teaching. Okay, just think about that. Ask yourself, how is it that we have a school system and about half of the people employed in it don't teach, don't have direct connection with children, aren't there to encourage them to think, to read, to discuss deep and difficult text? That's not what happens in the classroom. And then there are all those other people who are busily supporting that teacher, right? For every teacher in the classroom, at the board, or on the screen there's another person doing something. And here in Hamilton County, there's an inflow of $196 million that come from what the annual report says are state and federal appropriations, and another $11.7 million that come from charges, and then another $4.4 million that come from investments and miscellaneous items that generate revenue for this cartel. The welcome by the Hamilton County Commission was not warm. There were a couple of members who support raising taxes on the property holders. And notice I don't say property owners. You don't really own your property under our modern form of debt-based government, because there has to be a way of paying off the debt, right? The municipal bonds that are extent from the county and the city requires there to be a lock on your asset, a kind of a promise that you will continue paying the tax. And so there's a debt based on your land, as if it were the land of the county, right? It bases debt on guaranteed payments from you who are living in that house, or on that strip of country road there with the fence along it and the trees there by the stop sign. And you're not making any living off that land. You're just there, but you have to pay a big tax every year to maintain the public cartel in education. And how is it that it got so big? How is it that it's so not loco-centric, not local economy? Well, my arguments for local economy, in a way, are just laughable, right? They're just laughable. They are, you could say, idealistic. They're from someone who doesn't live in the real world, right? It's an ideal of what we used to have, maybe in the 1830s, or maybe in the 1870s or 1880s, that great period before the progressive era began, when there was a great movement and great prosperity, despite the South having been ruined by the North. And well, we have to have a sense of optimism. That's what I'm here to think about, how we can be optimistic about things, even though there's a disaster pending. It's taking place. Numerous ways it is going to be taking place. There's been a long road toward centralization. If you want to ask yourself how, there's a good accounting of it in one of my favorite books. It's called The Underground History of American Education by John Taylor Gatto. The subtitle, A School Teacher's Intimate Investigation into the Problem of Modern Schooling. Well, to have a centralized economy that we have now, you have to have a centralized system of schooling. You have to have everybody thinking the same things. And back in the my dad, Robert Toulis, who's now deceased, was a Massachusettsian, and went to a one-room schoolhouse, a red one-room schoolhouse in Sudbury, Mass, near where Mr. Ford had a charity school that he funded from the operation of his very profitable factories. Well, one-room schoolhouses were in 1930, there were 149,400 of them. And the problem with those was that you had old-fashioned teachers who had a disturbing proclivity to stress development of intellect through heavy reading and heavy writing assignments, intense discussions. And that's what developed in the wartime period, a lot of independent thinking people, Americans. And there were no administrators and there were no officials in those schools. The idea of a principal, right, a principal teacher is where that word came from, is a relatively new innovation. And it came, and he says, the fantastic notion of a parasitic army of assistant principals, coordinators, and all the rest of the various familiar specialists of institutional schooling didn't exist at all until 1905, and then in the speculations of college teacher dreamers. And to make students teacher proof, well, you had to have bigger systems. You had to have bigger. You had to have officials. You had to dilute the influence of individual teachers, and so the teacher's status was degraded. And then the standardized test was introduced again to take influence from the teacher herself. Often it was a woman. And as World War I ended, these were well underway. The third obstacle to effective centralization of management was the intimate neighborhood context of most American schools, one where school procedures could never escape the organic oversight. I just love the way he describes that, the organic oversight of parents and other local interests. But there was one James Bryant Conant, a World War I poison gas specialist, and by then chairman of the key Carnegie Commission. He said that in an ongoing national news story after the Sputnik moment, that it was the small size of our schools that kept us behind the Russians. And so, well, we have to have the massive factory school that kind of de-intellectualized Prussian-style curriculum could reign, and no one would know that it was there in charge. From 1960 to 1990, the student population increased around the country 61%. The number of school administrators grew 342%. In constant dollars, costs shot up 331%. And teachers who had fallen from 95% of all school personnel in 1915 to 70% in 1950. Now, well, they kept going down even further, so that now they are less than 50% of all the jobs in the school game. School had become, by then, by 1990, the largest employment project, the largest hiring haul in the world, bigger than agriculture, bigger than armies. And that's what we have in Hamilton County. We have our largest employer, and we have a no on the property tax. There is this large structure which will continue rumbling forward, even though the soul is gone out of it, and the soul has been gone out of that enterprise for a long time. There's a bit of dialect in the TV3 story about the meeting last night. Michelle Herron is the reporter. The headline: property tax increase nixed, but school fees increase. The quote from Dr. Smith, Rick Smith, the county superintendent, is as follows: those things that we really felt like were important to our school system and our children, really focusing on elementary education. When you look at that list, okay, that's a sentence, and it sounds like people talk, right? So he says we'll have to go back and pare that list down considerably. And that of course shows his high optimistic spirit that he's not going to give in. He's a bold American. We will continue to fight. We will resist the indifference to our plight in the public school with our $416 million budget. The letter from Jim Coppinger, the county mayor, dated Tuesday, says, I want to thank you for your thorough presentation to the county commission, etc. I have spent countless hours reviewing your budget proposal and your request for additional local funding. I have and always have been, here's the kind of perfunctory, we are for public school and we support education statement, been a strong supporter of the need for quality public education in Hamilton County. However, I believe it is in the overall best interest of the county taxpayers to retain the county property tax rate at its current level. Please let this letter serve as formal notice that I will not be recommending an increase in the county's 2015 property tax levy rate. And I'm requesting you to prepare the FY fiscal year 2016 budget for the Department of Education in accordance with this directive and forward it to me as soon as possible. Well, my name is David Toulis, and our show is Nuganomics.com. If you are hungry today, make sure you get the best of the Mexican fare that you can enjoy, and that is at Delia's Authentic Mexican Food. Delia's, she has there, Maria Hernandez, there has a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. If you're one of those 10,000 people in the new jobs that Dr. Fox is gushing over up in Knoxville, being created by the Volkswagen gem in Chattanooga, and you happen to be from Germany, well, find out how Americans live and how they enjoy food from south of the border, and they go to Delia's Authentic Mexican food. She does gangbusters business, so I'm not sure what to say about when you should go there, but sometimes there is room and you should go there. The special today is the taco salad, number 19 on the menu. It's $1 off, okay, $1 off. And it's $6.25, chicken or beef. Mention the radio station. Just say, hey, I heard your ad on the radio, and that should guarantee you a free iced tea. My name is David Toulis, and we are at 1240 a.m. Hot News Talk Radio, 1240 here in Chattanooga. Online, it's hotnewstalkradio.com. And to hear us on your smartphone, you can go ahead and just take a moment to do that now. If you're going to be passing beyond our range and you want to hear Sean Hannity, our number 2 star Hot News Talk Radio, you'll want to have us on your smartphone. Just go to the TuneIn Radio app, and you'll hear us there. Just type in Hot News Talk Radio, and we're the station who believes in the operations of the deep state, but not in it. Okay, we believe that the operation is there. We don't believe in it, and in the alternative theory, we argue for deep state on one hand, and to counterbalance it, we've got this wonderful, very, very slight opposition, deep local. And that is what I argue for here at Nuganomics.com. Love your neighbor. And by local. There is the whole idea of local is I offer the idea because not because I'm slightly informed about the world at large. I've been reading about conspiracies and histories for much of my life, and deep money issues, deep legal issues. I try to spend my time properly. I don't know anything about sports, and I'm not a very athletic person. I do like to read, and I do appreciate good writing and faithful research. And one book I would like to obtain is called The American Deep State, Wall Street, Big Oil, and the Attack on U.S. Democracy, by a writer that who gives an interview with, his name is Peter Dale Scott, giving an interview to a writer to a talk show host, and the transcript is at libya360.wordpress.com. And what is the deep state? Well, the deep state is our supranational entities, supranational bodies, supranational interests, which are congregate around corporations. They congregate around government agencies. They have connections with government agencies, which themselves, such as the CIA, have off-budget means of funding, and are involved in, you could say, we have to be excused for using such language, but they're involved in meddling around the world and putting into operation what are hidden programs that are deep and dark, and involve often a great deal of blood and deception, and the operation of the deep state in our country is one that is really shocking. Scott gives in his interview a reference to a congressman who wanted to find out about continuity of government program, the COG program, which is still in operation. We are still under a martial law or purportedly martial law settlement that occurred when the good people got what they want. Right, they got everything they wanted in 9/11. And things that had been in preparation for 20 years, that if we could get these things passed, if we can get these laws passed, these total surveillance laws, the bank security and all kinds of other things, surveillance, then we are set. We have what we want. We can now govern correctly. We can govern appropriately and make sure of the stability of our interests, of our regime. Peter Dale Scott says, as late as 2007, but President Bush, in renewing the state of emergency, made reference to the new COG elements, which, of course, we're not allowed to see. And it was very interesting, he says, that Congressman who was on the Homeland Security Committee wanted to see these new regulations. He was told he couldn't see them. He didn't have the clearance. He had all the regular clearances. So then the committee itself, in writing, requested to see the new COG regulations, and the committee was told they couldn't see them. So this is a very clear example where the public state wants to know what's happening up there at the level of the deep state. And the deep state said, sorry, you're not allowed to know. So that's why, in a very real sense, we don't have the constitutional government that we think we do. That's Peter Dale Scott I'm sure is a very fine book, which I need to have my wife Jeanette order for me. She often does me the gracious favor of doing that. And these things are indeed, they are happening, and they are, but we have to understand that we can't be made impotent by this intelligence, right? This is intelligence that you can find on the better websites. You can find out about it from, for example, one of my favorite writers, who runs a website called of2minds.com. The writer's name is Charles Hugh Smith. He's a contrarian, hard money man, and has this interest in how the deep state's operations affect local economy. He argues for local economy from his website, and I want to think some more about what he says. And I bring up deep state because I believe the alternative is weak, okay? And that's where I want to be. I want to be where the alternative is weak. And it's weak because it doesn't have any power. It doesn't have any guns. It doesn't have any budgets. It doesn't have any nonprofit statuses. It doesn't have any show of hands in the General Assembly or in the federal Congress. It is an idea of the marketplace, of the free market and its local economy. Deep local, deep state. Well, I would rather be on the side of the people who appear to be losing, the people who seem to have themselves bedraggled and tromped upon with warrantless detentions, mass surveillance, and other things. Well, I'd rather be on the losing side in this because I have a long-term view. And the long-term view is that the modern nation state, for all its hubris and all its pride, is a disaster in the making. And I would say in God's providence, maybe in God's judgment, there will be a humbling of the great ones, the good people. This is David Toulis. I've got someone I want you to meet. Hang on.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If you have the DT, shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life. We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas, every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You do not have to be living with constant pain. You need to make the choice today to enjoy a revitalized body. You deserve to live a better pain-free life. And Dr. Ross can help. At Ross Chiropractic, failure is not an option. For over 40 years, Dr. Ross, a graduate of the prestigious Palmer College of Chiropractic, prided himself in helping and healing. The Ross method of chiropractic care is unique in developing a treatment designed just for you. And Ross Chiropractic makes this promise to you. If he believes that he can help relieve your pain, he will guide you to another health practitioner to assist you. Feel better now. You owe it to yourself. You really do. Call Dr. Ross now at 954-9591. That's 954-9591. And visit Dr. Ross at 7405 Shallowford Road, Suite 320. Ross Chiropractic, helping your body heal itself. Because when your spine's in line, you will feel fine. Call 954-9591. That's 954-9591 for Ross Chiropractic.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducts. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio. I'm Lillian Wu. Under scrutiny, some of the highest-ranking soccer officials in the world. 14 indicted, including
officials of FIFA, the international organization responsible for regulating and promoting soccer. Leaders of regional and other governing bodies under the FIFA umbrella, and sports marketing executives who, according to the indictment, paid millions of dollars in bribes and kickbacks.
Attorney General Loretta Lynch saying FIFA's president won't be charged at this time. Weather troubles continue to threaten Texas. A dam near Dallas in danger of breaking and flooding a highway.
First responders have carried out more than 500 water rescues. Houston Police Corporal Kate Truhan says many people did not heed their warning.
They always think they can make it.
At least 2,500 vehicles were abandoned by drivers seeking higher ground.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers and former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum throwing his hat into the ring for the GOP presidential nomination today. Fox News. We report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
Deep state and deep local. How do we fight the good people in their control? How do we challenge and defy continuation of government programs and other wonderful mysteries about which not even congressmen can find out the slightest detail? Well, my name is David Toulis, and our argument here at Nooganomics.com is local economy. And part of that is the idea of loving your neighbor and buying local. No, it's not a sin. It's not a sin to go to a Walmart. There's no offense to God if you shop at Buy Low. But what we're trying to do is have people be more conscious of how the world at large works. And my goal is to offer you my best analysis every day of the world at large and give you, my listener, a sense of what you can be doing here in Chattanooga. What do you need to do differently that may not cost you a lot of money? Maybe it's something that's just requires a different pattern of your thinking. My pattern is something like this. I've got three steps I make, and then I stop for a second, and then I check the footnotes. And near is better than far, small is better than big, and simple beats complex. And then when I think about what else is there to that, because usually when you make an argument, 3 points are all you want to make. Don't make more than 3. But I say, okay, I put the other 2 in footnotes, and they are: personal is better than corporate, and physical than abstract. And if you think that that's a value, well, you'll want to have a friend make the switch here to Hot News Talk Radio and join Ray Rollison and my farmer today, Sonny Pemberton, here in the studio, and find out more about how we can have a more efficient, let's say less efficient. We don't want efficiency. We want something that's really, really alive. And so maybe efficiency is not the standard. A less efficient, more productive, and more wondrous and amazing life. And to help you in that, by the way, just let me recommend that you take part in Trade Bank of Chattanooga. We are members of Trade Bank. It's the smarter way to barter to improve your cash flow. There are 400 local businesses of all kinds, national businesses and local ones, that are members, and you can learn more about trafficking or trading, if you will, in Trade Bank dollars from Jürgen Mutz. Just give the number a call, and he would love to explain to you how it can be a benefit to you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga, 877-2202, 877-2202. Ray Rollison is the overseer of the Harvested Here Food Hub, and he's offering his services in that position to connect you, my listener, who might be called a consumer. Of course, that has a kind of a barcode sound to it, but you are a shopper or a man who eats at his home table, and the local farmer. Ray, tell us what you're doing for my listener.
Hi, David. It's happy to be here with you and talk about the Food Hub and the local agri-economy. The Harvested Here Food Hub mission statement reads that we're here, and our intent is to strengthen and secure the supply of a healthy local food system. And quite simply, we're here for the farmer producer of crops, fruits, vegetables, local cheese creameries, and soon to be animal proteins that are produced in the market. The local market we consider to be within a 120-mile radius of Chattanooga, and those are the farmers we're working with. And we think that the fresh community is very important. We think it needs to become more viable because we think, as many do, that the way our national economy is going, we're getting back to the local nuances of product. Very simply, when you buy local, you're buying from your neighbor. It has been said that if you do not buy your produce from a Walmart or a Bi-Lo this week, they're not going to miss you. But if you can contribute and buy local from a local producer, you in essence are helping that farmer buy a new stove for his kitchen, put a new starter on his pickup, and really helping put shoes on the kids. So we think that's important for those basic moral reasons to support our local and people. And as David said earlier, it's okay that we're supposed to love our neighbors and help them. But there's a very definitive economic advantage to buying local.
Well, my listener has the idea that I share, and I'd say it might be a mistake, that we forget that when we shop at Walmart, we are supporting Walmart. When we shop at a Publix, which is a big chain, also, we are supporting Publix. And we somehow forget that shopping is not just about us. And I think because we are sort of dollar, we have a kind of idolatry of the dollar, we think it's just about us. But really, when we go into it and put our money down, we are saying, I want this money to go to you to help you because I want something that you have, and you're going to be able to give that to me at a good price. And here's my money. And we are supporting these big businesses, not thinking about that.
That's correct, David. And to put it into, I guess, layman's terms, if for every $100 that is spent in the Chattanooga community on food, if we could make only $5 or 5% of that $100 purchases in local food, we would inject another $157 million into the local economy. And you think, well, we're buying and selling fruits and vegetables. Well, that's true. But when you're supporting the local community, you're supporting the guy or the company that sells the farmer the box to put the product in.
Well, also in the studio we have Sonny Pemberton, who is a farmer from Sandabama. The farm is Sandabama. Is that right?
That's correct.
Sonny, in Sand Mountain, Alabama, which is near the town of Bryant. How are you helping? Tell us about your farm, what you do there, and how my listener can connect with who you are, your family, and what you're doing every day out in your fields.
I think everyone in the area would love to have a backyard garden. They would, a lot of people, even if they have a flower bed, they'll stick 3 or 4 tomato plants in the flower bed, and they like the idea that they are producing something themselves and are eating on a small scale like that. When you are dealing with a local farmer, which is what the Food Hub is all about, connecting farmers to the community, you're taking a farm like mine, which is like a backyard garden, just on a little larger scale. It's not hundreds and hundreds of acres of a big corporate farm. A lot of the new farms, I know 2 and 3 acre farms producing just massive amounts of local food. Mine's a little larger than that, but we are bringing that to the farmers markets, to the restaurants and eateries, to your fruit stands, independent grocery stores. We're providing people the opportunity to still have that same experience eating out of their backyard, just on a little larger, more convenient scale.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with Sonny Pemberton, who's 33 years old and married. He and his wife, Renee, have 2 daughters, Abby, age 4, and Allie, age 2. Do these girls have any chores on the farm? What do they do in the morning? Describe a little bit about your farm life, Sonny.
The girls love to get out and help me. It's not always the same from day to day, but any chance they get to get out and dig in the dirt, pick up rocks, plant cabbage, simple things like that. They love to be a part of it. And of course, a 2-year-old's attention span is not one that can constantly be helpful. But 5 minutes working with me, planting, and then they may wander around chasing butterflies, whatever is going to happen.
What kind of plants do they cavort past and chasing after those butterflies?
Broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, squash, zucchini, peppers, eggplants, tomatoes, sweet corn, watermelons.
What kind of care, Sonny Pemberton, do you give to keeping your crop alive, keeping it safe from insects and from weeds? How do you fight these ordinary pests with my listener as your potential buyer in mind?
Right. Well, we're not a certified organic farm. We're not strictly conventional either. We use we try to use rotational planting to help mitigate insect problems. We try to use as much natural fertilizer as possible, manures and mulches, composts. We use green turn under crops and cover crops.
What does that mean?
Crops that are planted in the fall and build up the soil and then can be turned under in the spring just to build up the soil as a source of fertilizer. And you're not putting chemical fertilizer on the crops. So.
Well, you're pointing out something that my listener and I think overlook, and that is that you care about your broccoli and your carrot. You care about these vegetables, and you're going to look out for your buyers because you know them personally, many of them, right? Not just the restaurant owners who buy from you, but ones at the farmers markets. Do you attend to farmers markets?
We have in the past. Now that we're connected with the Food Hub and doing a lot with distribution through the Food Hub, we hope to be doing less and less of that. We have a lot of customer base that actually come to the farm. I've had a customer for 2 years now that will drive close to an hour to come out to the farm, and they may buy $25 worth of produce to take home. But it's that important to them because they know our growing practices and what we value and what we put into.
And so you care about my listener then, and you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that if he's your customer or if he buys food through the Food Hub, which is part of your distribution mechanism, that it's going to be as beneficial with as few injurious things on it as possible.
Absolutely. Our family, we're a very close, tight-knit family. The whole extended family lives within probably 2 miles of one another. We have the equivalent of a Thanksgiving meal every Saturday afternoon, and usually during the week we still get together throughout the summer and can and freeze food together. All this food that we grow and that we provide to the public, this is what we're eating on a daily basis.
Are you suggesting you're not a first-generation farmer?
I'm fifth that I know of, and I don't know how far back that it actually goes, but even my great-great-grandfather farmed and on down through the generations, and I hope my daughters take my place.
Well, there's something about farming which I really appreciate. Though my mother has been a gardener all of her life, I've not taken up gardening. Though I feel bad that I just haven't conceptually gotten to it. And so, I have another question for Ray Rollison. Ray Rollison is the overseer of the Harvested Here Food Hub in Chattanooga. So Ray, your goal is to help farmers such as Sonny Pemberton at Sandabama Farm on Sand Mountain find outlets apart from the personal visits of customers. How are you doing that? And talk a little bit about restaurants as part of your landing place for baskets of locally grown food.
Well, David, we took the position. The Food Hub sold our first case last September. And as a precursor to that, we went out to the local restaurants and really just sat down with the chefs, the sous chefs and the executive chefs, and asked them what they needed, what was not being provided for them in terms of product itself or the pack and size. And we took those considerations very carefully and took them back to a number of farmers, Sonny certainly one of those, most important to us, and told them that this is what we need, this is what's required, and we made a plan to develop the product and to inject the post-harvest production we needed to accomplish in getting them, the end unit, to the restaurant, the product they needed.
You kind of lost me on that bureaucratic sounding language. What are you saying? The end unit? You lost me. What happens now?
Well, we asked them what they wanted. We listened. We went and asked the farmer to grow it. They grew it, and we sold it to them.
So the farmers then are sort of taking orders from the chefs of Chattanooga area restaurants.
Yeah, as any good a good businessman takes in consideration what his market is and what their demand is. Yes.
Well, what's in demand right now?
Right now, we're getting on the cusp of local strawberries, big demand item. We're getting into the new season. Squashes have just become available today, and we have variety of lettuces, and there's just a sprinkling of some new tomatoes coming on. So May is the jumping off spot. June and July will be our really big volume months for the complement of items.
Describe the imbalance between demand and supply between the farmers and people like my listener, who is we could just say a consumer.
Okay. One of the challenges we have at the Food Hub is lining up the supply to meet the demand. If you get into a demand exceeds supply, markets are driven up and you have a shortage of product. And what we're trying to do,
and prices go up too.
There you go. And we're trying to get that fine balance of having the right product available at the right time. And that means being the first to market with, like we were with local strawberries, and when to know to get out of those when the product and quality starts to wane and we can move on to the next thing. So that's a very delicate balance that we try to strike.
Well, do sous chefs and restaurants make these decisions, and you get their input from them, not the owners of the restaurants?
It's an interesting.
How does that work?
It's an interesting mix, David. We have some great restaurants, as you know, in Chattanooga and the area, and it's different from restaurant to restaurant. We have restaurants where the head chef will sit with us, and what happens after a length of time, they'll have a good bit of confidence in us and what we're telling and making available. And we try to work with the sous chefs as well, and cover them, because we've gotten some great suggestions for product out of the sous chefs.
Your Harvested Here Food Hub is connected with the food bank. Talk about that connection. These are two nonprofit organizations. Your group is within the confines or within the building of the other. Is that right?
That's correct.
Talk a little bit about the relationship between what you do and how you are maybe helping this charity organization.
What we're doing, we are Harvested Here Food Hub is a nonprofit LLC and a full subsidiary of the food bank, meaning that we conduct business out of there, and we use some of the resources they have for us, bookkeeping, payroll, and that type of thing. What we do in talking to the farmers is help the food bank with their initiative to get more nutritional food. The food bank of Chattanooga feeds 20,000 people a week, and their goal this year is to inject more nutritious food into that offering. And what we do is, as we talk to the farmers about stores and restaurants, we also ask if there is items that are available that we could purchase for the food bank. They do have a budget to buy some fresh food. If they have an abundance they would like to donate, which we think that's a very gracious thing that they can do very often and will do. And we're helping get the produce procured into the hands of the clients of the food bank.
How strong is the idea of local food, given the rising complaints that we were reading about national food, the national diet? Is the local food idea, which I would say is about 10 or 15 years old in Chattanooga, is it really growing, or is it stagnating, Ray Rollison?
It's growing, David, and we see that in a lot of barometers we look at, and of course the most simplest one is the demand. In working, the restaurants we work with list on the menu the name of the farm. If Sonny Pemberton sells us watermelons, and a watermelon is used in a fruit compote, his name of his farm is on the menu in a lot of instances, where it came from. But what we're also finding is the retail stores. We're selling now to Earth Fare, and we're in conversations with other local and regional chains to sell them. They are very interested in local, to much to the fact where they have put staff on in regions of this area to handle nothing but locally grown and produced products. So it's on fire.
There's a new food store opening in Hickson that has a strong organic interest. What connections have you made there?
We've contacted the owner of the store, and we made offers to him of what we were going to have available. It's a Harvest Grocery. It's in Hickson. It opens June 12th. They're going to bring a great variety and a great service to the community, and we just urge everybody to come out and support them. June 12th they're opening, and we will have hopefully some of our product in there, but even if it doesn't come through the hub, they will have a great commitment to local product, and that's what's important. It isn't important how it gets there. It's just important getting the local product into the hands of the consumer.
Well, I have a question for Sonny Pemberton, who's a farmer in Sand Mountain, Alabama, near the town of Bryant. And he's a young dad, 33 years old, with a couple of children. Renee is the name of his wife, and he has a oversized garden, as he describes it, in his farm. How is it that, Sonny, where can my listener find your name, say, on a restaurant menu in Chattanooga? Do you know which restaurants take your things, or is it all not clear to you?
I don't currently know. As more and more things become available, especially with some of the summer production, I was one of the first farmers that the Food Hub contacted about growing crops specific for the Food Hub. That was kind of the new concept and a push. So they gave me a list of things that I would do well growing on the farm, and that I grow specifically to be distributed by the Food Hub.
What can my listener do to help you and people like you who are farmers? How can he render aid to the idea of local food?
Look for the Harvested Here sticker. Look, it'll be on the doors of a lot of eateries. It'll be on the packaging at grocery stores that have decided to do local. There's so many ways. Of course, there's always farmers markets, and a lot of fruit stands really push buying local. But the whole idea of Harvested Here is taking what is local and making it mainstream. It's going to be the new mainstream.
Well, I know my listener is thinking about this, and he's saying, "Well, I don't like to do the shopping, and I leave that to my sweetheart." But you do have something I would like to suggest to you, my listener, in this direction. If you're not going to make steps yourself, and your wife is kind of particular about what she buys, just say, "Look, sweetheart, let's support local food, let's support local economy, and let's have an idea of buying from local farmers and asking from the store we patronize if it has Harvested Here fare, and make a big deal out of it."
Absolutely, ask for it.
Ask for it. Now, just quickly, you've been farming for how many years of your life, Sonny?
Full time, over 10. I actually went in the corporate world, got a degree, did a lot of stuff in business, and came back to the farming a little over 3 years ago.
What was your degree?
Business.
And you're using business talents that you grew on the job, really, and you're not using much of what you learned in academia, would you say?
It's pretty balanced.
Okay.
I'm running the farm from a business perspective, and it's doing a lot better than it has in the past.
This is David Toulis. We've been talking with Sonny Pemberton. Sonny, thank you for chatting with my listener. And also, we've been chatting a little bit with Ray Rollison from Harvested Here. He runs the Food Hub, which is a division of the Food Bank. There's a partnership. The Food Bank serves 20,000 people. Ray, thanks for joining my listener and me here at Nuganomics.com.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much.
My name is David Toulis. How can my listener find out more about you online, Ray?
Well, you could visit our website at harvestedhere.org, and also our Facebook page listed as Harvested Here. I think you'll find a lot of good information about what we do and a good representation of our farmers.
David Toulis, our show is Nuganomics.com. We cover local economy and the free market. Our whimsical theory is love your neighbor and buy local, and we'll have a stronger local economy, a stronger heart here in the Chattanooga area, Hamilton County, and it'll mean a lot more as we face disaster. There are disasters afoot already. Look at the national diet. Look at the national girth, the national waistline. There are many things we need to work on, and I do thank you for giving me a few minutes. of your time.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Don't worry, just relax. You need a car? Come to Automax.
My wife and I keep the cost down. We sell a quality vehicle at a great price. Our overhead is low. I have no employees, so I can keep my costs down. In turn, the consumer gets a better price. Everything that I sell is emission ready. We really try to go the extra mile for our customer. I don't have to pay an employee commission. I don't have to pay somebody to come out here and wash my cars. You know, I do it all from buying to selling from A to Z. I don't have the overhead where I have to raise the price on my vehicle to cover costs. Here at Automax, you're going to guarantee that you get credit. As long as you're making those payments, you're going to build on your credit. Unlike the buy here, pay here's where they don't report to credit bureaus, we report to all 3 credit bureaus. The subprime lenders that we deal with, you don't have to have any credit, or you can have bad credit. You can even have a bankruptcy, a repossession.
Don't worry, just relax. You need a car? Come to Automax.
Right now, you can save half off at hotnewstalkradio.com. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click half off for exceptional deals on new and pre-owned unique quality items for Hamilton County residents only. Save half off at Jet's Pizza, golf clubs, coffee, tea, a real sword, jewelry, and much more. It's half off. Go to half off at hotnewstalkradio.com right now, then click on half off to save big. Be sure to join us live Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays at 11 a.m. as we bring you lots of fantastic deals right here. AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. HotNewsTalkRadio.com and half
Surgery
off.
does not have to be financially painful. Hi, I'm Surgical Dr. David Red, and I'd like to invite you to my walk-in surgery clinic in North Shore. Quick Surge brings you immediate relief from moles, skin tags, maybe a laceration. Quick Surge. You walk in, fill out a mini form, I numb the area I'll treat, and before you know it, you're on your way home. Do I take insurance? No, because I take cash customers. I have super low and fixed prices, credit card, check, or cash. Uninsured, member of the working financially disadvantaged, choose Quick Surge. I publish prices online. No murk, just sunshine. Hassle-free, pain-free. Love the idea of a personal relationship with a doctor? Drop in with nasty cut from work. Quick Surge, I'll take care of you. Quick Surge is a public center on the North Shore. No insurance hassles with Quick Surge. The national medical system is dysfunctional, overpriced, very alienating. I'm part of the solution, and so are you. Come on home. Quicksurge.com. QUIKSURG. Relief.
When my brother and I opened the first Jet's Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300 plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and 1 topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jet's.
Okay, you get your taxes done by a franchise, but you're just a number. Your preparer might have had a 9-week course, but he's a number 2. Are you creating prosperity for your customers and yourself? EJ Pelton clears the thick underbrush of taxes, helps make your way straight. Don't let uncertainty dampen your local economy spirit. Look, come home. Let EJ Pelton Tax Service handle your taxes. Eric Pelton is the Chattanooga and Saudi Daisy tax specialist with 37 years under his belt. Eric Pelton also does bookkeeping and accounting to help you reach your entrepreneurial and financial goals. Confidential advice, consulting, and other services. Yours for the asking. EJPelton.com. That's EJPelton.com. Call 332-3339. That's 332-3339. Think ahead.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Coverage continues Sunday here at Live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
NASCAR being brought to you by River City Auto Exchange, 5503 Highway 153 in Hickson.
Check it out this Sunday live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Saudi Daisy.
Chattanooga.
CBS News. I'm Harley Carnes. The National Weather Service has a new flash flood warning for Houston, Texas. The Bayou City has lived up to its name this week with one tributary after another way out of its banks. More big rain is coming. In the San Marcos area, the cleanup is underway from the historic Blanco River flooding. CBS's Chris Martinez is there.
We have piles of mattresses and siding. We have some slabs where these cabins used to be, where you see cinder blocks. You look at this damage and you can't imagine that this was all done by a rushing wall of water.
Thousands of people were stranded on flooded roads in parts of Texas, and it isn't over yet. Ever wondered how some countries managed to land hosting opportunities for the World Cup soccer tournament? Turns out prosecutors allege there was bribery for decades at FIFA, hundreds of millions of dollars. U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch.
The most serious charges in the indictment now are the racketeering charges. And those are the charges that these defendants took the soccer enterprise and turned it into a criminal enterprise. The maximum sentence for that is a 20-year jail sentence.
A FIFA convention in Switzerland has made it easier for international police officials to round up the board members charged who come from a variety of countries. The MacArthur Foundation's awarding $150,000 to 20 jails to find a way to fight prison overcrowding. The foundation's Justice Reform Program Director, Lori Garducki.
They vary in size from jurisdictions that have 200 beds, like in Mesa, Colorado, to jurisdictions that have well over 5,000 beds, like New York, Philadelphia, and Chicago.
She claims many people in jails don't need to be there. NOAA is predicting this time a lighter than usual hurricane season. Just 6 to 11 storms big enough to get named, with only 2 possibly becoming major hurricanes, among 3 to 6 that could reach hurricane status. A lighter season or not, FEMA's Joe Nimich says be prepared.
You may not have electricity, you won't have air conditioning, you won't have those things that make life simple. You need to be prepared for that. You need to have food and water for at least 72 hours.
NOAA says the reasons are the oceans are cooler, not hotter, and a strong El Nino effect will keep the season calmer. SpaceX has landed a military contract now. CBS News business reporter Jason Brooks.
Elon Musk's satellite company SpaceX is catching a huge break. The U.S. Air Force has certified the firm's Falcon 9 rocket for launching military and spy satellites, a market worth an estimated $70 billion through 2030. Boeing and Lockheed Martin have had an iron grip on military satellite launches after forming a partnership in 2006, but SpaceX has an advantage in that its rockets are cheaper and it's further along in developing a reusable rocket.
On Wall Street, the Dow is up 122 points. The Nasdaq has gained 61. The S&P is up 16 points, and oil prices at $57.67 a barrel. This is CBS News.
I'm Jay Farner with some great news on how you could save an average of $3,000 per year on your mortgage. Call Quicken Loans now at 800-QUICKEN to see if you qualify for the government's Home Affordable Refinance Program, or HARP. The HARP guidelines have changed. There's less paperwork and often no appraisal required. Call 800-QUICKEN. That's 800-QUICKEN, or visit QuickenLoans.com.
Important terms and conditions apply. Calls for cost information. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. And MLS number 3030.
Imagine a store that lets you get anything you wanted. An HD flat screen TV, a high-capacity, ultra-quiet washer and dryer, a complete living room set. And imagine if you didn't need a lick of credit to get it. That store simply believed in you. Imagine if they even delivered it, set it up, and serviced it at no additional cost. Well, that store exists. That's Rent-A-Center. Imagine that. No credit needed. Affordable payment plans. Delivery, setup, and service included. Imagine new possibilities at Rent-A-Center. Rental purchase transaction. See store for details.
The Merriam-Webster dictionary keeps getting bigger and bigger with new words added to English every year. CBS's Barry Bagnato in Washington.
Know what Slendro is? Look it up. It's one of more than 1,700 additions to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, along with a number of words that reflect our device addictions. Photobomb, clickbait, click fraud, emoji, and the text expression WTF. There's palliative care, neurofeedback, chilaquiles, and dark money. Slendro, by the way, is a method of tuning that divides an octave into 5 roughly similar intervals. It's used for a type of musical ensemble in Indonesia.
If the ferry boat is going to break down and strand hundreds of passengers, this was probably a better than average venue for that. In Juneau, Alaska, the ferry that would have taken people from the Great Alaska Craft Beer and Home Brew Festival broke down. Those people couldn't leave for hours and hours. Oh, darn. Harley Carnes, CBS News.
us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
By some accounts, those of us who have investments in national economy are going to lose 75% of our buying power in the coming reckoning, the coming day of reckoning, which if it's a collapse, if it's a disaster, if it's a calamity, has its good points. It has a return of price, of real prices, which means that things that are worth less or worth little are seen to be worth less and worth little, and those things that are worth truly a great deal, but which now have a low dollar denomination attached to them, are seen really as highly valuable and not something that can be counted, right? Some things that are valuable can't be counted, and some things that you can count are not valuable. And we're talking about buying local and local food, and there's a group here in Chattanooga called Harvested Here, the Food Hub, which is trying to get you, my listener, to connect with the local farmer. And what it's doing is trying to provide a kind of middleman service so that it doesn't have to be always personal, where you have to know the farmer and the names of his children to buy his cucumbers, right, or his tomatoes. That there's a marketplace, right? The marketplace, the idea of a medium of exchange, which in our day and time is the paper dollar. These allow for a certain flexibility and a certain fluidity among all the players, the providers of things and the buyers of things. Of course, the farmer, you have something he wants to buy, right? He wants to buy your green rectangle. And what's his money? Well, the money he has various denominations of it and various, you might say, various issues of currency. And it is the variety of vegetables and fruits in his display of baskets, small baskets there on his table at the farmer's market. He's trying to buy from you your dollar. You think you're buying from him his vegetables and his watermelons, but really he's buying from you, and he's buying the dollar. And why does he need that? Well, as Ray Rollison points out, he needs to buy another part to his truck, and he has some braces he's going to have to pay for his eldest daughter, who's 13 and whose teeth are a real disaster area. So he's going to have to, not having Delta insurance, he's going to have to fork out that $2,000 for her. And so he's the orthodontist doesn't take vegetables, and so the orthodontist wants to be paid in green rectangles. And so the farmer, through the services of the Food Hub, injects his food into the marketplace, and trickling back to him are dollars. A typical farm enterprise gets less than 20 cents out of each dollar that is spent in the supermarket, and often much less than that. When you buy directly from a local farmer, we are reminded the farmer gets every penny, and so that's what we want to have more of that kind of transactions taking place, where the middleman is cut out, and the farmer, such as Sonny Pemberton, 33, from Sandabama Farm on Sand Mountain in Alabama, he gets the money. And because small farms purchase most of their labor and materials and their equipment locally, you could say that more than 3/4 of your food dollar recirculates in what we call the community, right? In Chattanooga, in Hamilton County. And that you could say creates jobs. It keeps the local economy strong. There was a study, about 7 years ago now, at by the Ox Center. Around 1,500 farms sold more than $7.4 million of produce, meats, and other goods directly to consumers. That same economy report said that if Chattanooga area residents would just increase their local food purchasing by 5%, more than $100 million in new revenues would remain in and would circulate in the Chattanooga economy. The whole idea, the fact that the public school in the county was given a cold shoulder on its budget, and this local food story, if you will, they really have a similar point of origin. And we can see a little bit of this of the concept behind this either depersonalized or personalized economics. Right, public schools are highly depersonalized, even though there are figureheads. There's a Dr. Rick Smith and an amenable teacher and a friendly guidance counselor, and there are others that you might know personally who are connected with the public school. But in the end, they are sentinels for an alien theory, and they dot the county, and they consume a budget of past $400 million a year, and they employ the system in Chattanooga and Hamilton County employs 6,000 people, and serves. We're told that they serve 42,000 students or so. Wendell Berry says that in a society in which everybody is dominated by somebody else's mind or by a disembodied mind, it becomes increasingly difficult to learn the truth about the activities of governments and corporations, about the quality or value of products, or about the health of one's own place and economy. In such a society, also, our private economies will depend less and less upon the private ownership of real and usable property, and more, he says, upon property that is institutional and abstract, beyond individual control, such as, well, where you have your investments, money, insurance, policies, certificates of deposits, stocks, and shares. And as our private economies become more abstract, the mutual free helps and pleasures of family and community life will be supplanted by a kind of displaced and placeless citizenship, and by commerce with impersonal and self-interested suppliers. Thus, although we are not slaves, he says, in name, and cannot be carried to market and sold as somebody else's legal chattels, we are free only within narrow limits. Wendell Berry says, for all our talk about liberation and personal autonomy, there are few choices that we are free to make. What would be the point, for example, if a majority of our people decided to be self-employed? Well, that is my argument and my theory here at Nuganomics.com. In fact, to help you become self-employed, if you will, or to work for yourself, or to work as your own man or for yourself, there is Bruce Krebs. Bruce Krebs runs Entrepreneur Source, and he specializes in getting you, my listener, into a franchise, a business that suits your time availability, your background, your interests, your capital, whether or not you would have help in your family. And Bruce Krebs runs Entrepreneur Source, and I want you to call him. Call Bruce Krebs today at 875-5621, 875-5621. Have a plan. You need to have a plan, and you need to have plan B, right? You're on plan A right now, and you're not sure how it will work out. Wendell Berry says the great enemy of freedom is the alignment of political power with wealth. That, of course, is the deep state. He doesn't use that language. This alignment destroys the commonwealth, that is the natural wealth of localities, and the local economies of household, neighborhood, and community, and so destroys democracy, of which the commonwealth is the foundation and the practical means. And I've been kind of taken up. I was reading a lengthy interview this morning with a writer who has a book that came out, I think, last year about the deep state. And there's you have this quote from Wendell Berry, and you have a picture of what John Taylor Gatto, who's a monumental writer, whom I strongly recommend. He brings up this nature of the psychopathic nature of institutions. We don't live in a country anymore that has really families. We live in a country that is run by institutions. Think of all the nonprofits out there. Every nonprofit out there to help every aspect of personal problems, personal life. There's a group for everything. And the news coverage, of course, is always about groups doing this or doing that, or trying to get government money, or trying to get into notice. And a society that is run by corporations effectively is psychopathic. He says the word summons up flashing eyes and floating hair, men hiding gasoline bombs in their coats in crowded subway cars on the way to Merrill Lynch for revenge. But aside from lurid associations you may have with the term, I'm using it as a label to describe people without consciences. Nothing more. So a psychopathic person is a sociopath. He's a charming person. He's agreeable. He's an intelligent roommate. He's the fine man you had lunch with from the corporation, or the very high level female official there at the local nonprofit charity. They mimic perfectly the necessary protective coloration of compassion and concern. They mimic human discourse, yet underneath that surface disguise, they are circuit boards of scientific rationality, pure expressions of pragmatism. That is, of course, the modern corporation. And the larger the corporation, the more likely this systemic problem of rationalism will take over. Gatto says that all large bureaucracies, public or private, are psychopathic to the degree. They're psychopathic to the degree that they're well managed. It's a genuine paradox, but time to face the truth of it. Corporate policies like downsizing and environmental degradation, which reduce the quality of life for enormous numbers of people, make perfectly rational sense as devices with which to reach profitability. Even could it be proven that the theory of Homo economicus has a long-range moral component in which, as is somehow argued in policy circles, the pain of the moment leads inevitably to a better tomorrow for those who survive, the thing would still be, he says, psychopathic. And older America would have little hesitation of labeling it evil, but he says he reaches for the term psychopathic instead of evil because he wants to defer to modern antipathies. The whole matter is in harmony with classic evolutionary theory, and he says theological notions of limited salvation. I find that congruous interesting. Of course, this man is a Roman Catholic, and so he has very little interest in the idea of God choosing his own people. And he goes on to say, though, however, the sensationalistic charge that all corporations, including school corporations, are psychopathic becomes less inflammatory if you admit the obvious first, that all such entities are non-human, right? They're non-human. They are not persons. They may be legal persons who can sue, or that can sue and be sued and sign contracts and so on, but they are not human. Forget the human beings who populate corporate structures. Sure, some of them sabotage corporate integrity from time to time and behave like human beings, but never consistently or ever for long. For if that were the story, corporate coherence would be impossible, as it often is in third world countries. See, now at last you see where I'm coming from in categorizing the institutional school, the institutional corporation of school, as psychopathic. Moral codes don't drive decision-making. That means school sometimes decides to ignore your wimpy kid being beaten up for his lunch money in order to oil some greater wheels. School has no tear ducts with which to weep because it's not human, and it is a kind of an idea that has escaped its masters. That is what school is, and we are all here in local economy here in Chattanooga. We are all glad to surrender to it every day, to give our children to the school concept, to the school idea. Well, there's a prediction from an important writer that we're going to lose about 75% of our, well, I'd say of our net worth. I won't say that because I don't think he's going quite that far, but he's saying we're going to lose 75% of the valuation of national economy assets. The writer is Charles Hugh Smith, and I've loaded up today on Charles Hugh Smith. Really appreciate his work. He says that that stocks and bonds from 1981 valuations suggest a major fall. There's been what he says is a 34-year bull market, and he points out that before the bubbles in which we are observing in the marketplace, the stock market was valued at 50% of gross domestic product. Now it's 200% of gross domestic product, and total securities are 400% of gross domestic product. So securities, right? These are these abstract contracts that Wendell Berry is talking about, and that are implied in the discourse of John Taylor Gatto against the corporate factory school. The gross domestic product for 2014 is $17 trillion. He says if stocks had risen only with official inflation, they'd be worth 10% of what the Standard & Poor's current valuation is. In other words, they would be worth $3.6 trillion versus $36 trillion There's been 34 years of relentless expansion of the monetary base. That is to say, money being created from nothing, value created from the bets placed in the currency markets. Remember, the currency markets are the big gambling casino where much modern capital has gone. Capital which would otherwise be used to create a new idea, create a business, create a new factory, a new line of cars perhaps, or a new innovation. The money that would be available there is been sucked up into the currency exchange markets, where it is essentially gambling over whether the euro will rise today versus the dollar or the yen or other currencies. Smith says that if valuations return to pre-bubble levels of 50% of GDP, stocks would have to drop from 36 trillion to around 8 trillion, a decline of 75%. Bonds would have to experience a similar decline to reach pre-credit bubble levels. A drop back to the rich valuations of 100% of gross domestic product would require a decline of 50% from current levels. In other words, the S&P 500 will be around 1,000, not around 2,000. He says, measured in gross domestic product, stocks and bonds have reached extremes that make no sense except as the result of an unprecedented global credit bubble. Credit bubbles have a history of not being as permanent and as durable as those living in the peak of the bubble expect. By any reasonable measure, the credit bubble boom in stocks and bonds is getting long in the tooth after 34 years of relentless expansion, and the rise of securities to 400% of GDP is reaching extremes that are increasingly difficult to support, much less push higher. From the point of view of history, a reversion to generational lows is inevitable, and a valuation level of around 50% of GDP for stocks is a fair target, and that implies a 75% decline in stocks and bonds within the next decade, if not sooner. That's a perspective, a contrarian perspective from a writer, Charles Hugh Smith, who has in another one of his pieces that I got caught up today. The headline threw me initially, and his analysis is on surplus repression and the self-defeating deep state. Now, repression is what you think it is. It's not. We're not talking here about something financial. We're talking here about the police state, about the things that are in view in the interview with Peter Dale Scott, the writer of the book that recently has come out called The American Deep State: Wall Street, Big Oil, and the Attack on Democracy. Repression is what you think it is, right? That's the police department's killing people, people being held in the Chicago there's a black prison in Chicago, meaning it's a prison that's in secret. It was just revealed a couple of weeks ago as being a place where people are shanghaied. They're effectively kidnapped and lost in this building, which is an unmarked building in Chicago. And he talks about the deep state and the interest of the people who run the deep state. Kind of, this is the government behind the government, right? This is the interest that is always there. It's ever vigilant and has an interest quite apart from caring for you, right? Not thinking about you, not caring. There's no fiduciary duty on the part of the deep state to the maintenance of the American enterprise, the American concept of liberty, limited government, constitutional government. These are all things that are not really, they're long dead. These are concepts to which the deep state is simply dead. But the idea is that Smith develops with a discussion of this book is that there is surplus repression. There's repression. There's repression always whenever you have the state, but there is a surplus of it, and it bodes ill, he says, because it is potentially destabilizing of the American, the American passivity that is necessary for the deep state to continue to prosper on the backs of the American people. There has to be stability and He says Scott's key phrase is surplus repression, which I interpret to mean repression that exceeds the practical needs of the deep state to maintain public order. We can anticipate the deep state fracturing over the question of how much repression is enough. Those who believe there is no upper limit on the effectiveness of repression, and those who understand that at some point unlimited policing and financial repression will unleash a social destabilization that will threaten the integrity of the empire and the deep state itself. Well, this is David Toulis on our shows, Nuganomics.com. I wanted to mention that if you need a car, consider Automax, a little car lot that's you might not have noticed before, but the advantage to you of that little dealership on Highway 58 just past Central High School, it has a good selection of cars, is that Louis buys the cars at he can sell the cars at a kind of a discount because he has very minimal overhead. And he does it all himself with his wife, Melanie. He buys, sells, cleans, repairs cars, and handles the sales. Call Automax or stop by. The number is 643-2886. That's 643-2886.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If you have the DT, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life. We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. You do not have to be living with constant pain. You need to make the choice today to enjoy a revitalized body. You deserve to live a better pain-free life. And Dr. Ross can help. At Ross Chiropractic, failure is not an option. For over 40 years, Dr. Ross, a graduate of the prestigious Palmer College of Chiropractic, prided himself in helping and healing. The Ross method of chiropractic care is unique in developing a treatment designed just for you. And Ross Chiropractic makes this promise to you. If he believes that he can help relieve your pain, he will guide you to another health practitioner to assist you. Feel better now. You owe it to yourself. You really do. Call Dr. Ross now at 954-9591. That's 954-9591. And visit Dr. Ross at 7405 Shallowford Road, Suite 320. Ross Chiropractic, helping your body heal itself. Because when your spine's in line, you will feel fine. Call 954-9591. That's 954-9591 for Ross Chiropractic.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducts. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio. I'm Lillian Wu. The threat of a dam breaking southwest of Dallas said to be over. Police there say water is still spilling over, but the volumes decreased. Meanwhile, other flooding dangers remain.
Towns like San Marcos near Austin are in shambles. Emergency manager Kenneth Bell is begging people to stay put. The ground can't hold any more rainwater.
The isolated thunderstorms could cause immediate local flooding.
17 people have been killed in these floods, which have washed away homes.
Fox Radio's Evan Brown, a government website hackers used to steal taxpayer information, shut down for now.
IRS says the thieves got access information from sources outside the agency to enter its system through an online service called Get Transcript, which lets taxpayers see their returns and other filings from past years.
Fox Radio's Steve Taylor. IRS says it's notifying more than 100,000 taxpayers affected. Fox News. We report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
I'm trying to offer legal reasons why county clerks around Tennessee, across Tennessee, should refuse to obey or, quote, obey, unquote, obey a high court decision in the event that that high court decision destroys marriage and ruins the definition of marriage, to allow to redefine it as something that includes Jim and Joe together in marriage. What I've done is I've written a little booklet called Good Faith and the County Clerk. It's called Good Faith and the County Clerk. And many county clerks think that because they personally oppose gay marriage, that they really don't think that they can or should enter into the record in Tennessee Jim and Joe as wed in the event that a court decision comes down that it really creates this so-called right to gay marriage and to buffalo all the states to comply. Well, the clerk has to have more than just a personal opinion. He has to have the legal reason to say no, and that's what I've done. One who has read a little bit in the law and has thought a great deal about the nature of American government and the idea of the doctrine of the lesser magistrate. And the doctrine of the lesser magistrate comes from the Reformation, and there is a volume that has come out this year that delves into it. Is by Matt Truella, a minister in Milwaukee, and it's called The Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrates, a Proper Resistance to Tyranny and a Repudiation of Unlimited Obedience to Civil Government, by Matt Truella. So there's a picture of that book in my booklet if you want to read more about that. But what I'm arguing for is that clerks need to say no, and they need to say no in good faith. To say no, I'm a Tennessee clerk and of my county, and it's impossible for me to allow two men to marry. I don't care if you print out that high court opinion, 150 pages of that high court opinion for my benefit on pink paper. It's not going to make any difference. I'm not going to do it, and here's why. So the here's why is what I explore in my analysis, which is one that I have developed for some months, thinking about this question and asking what is the godly thing to do, and not just that, but what is for someone who doesn't care about God, what is the right thing to do, even by his account. And the arguments are that the oath is binding, that the oath of office made in God's presence makes the Constitution live, and that the Constitution and its marriage provision here in Tennessee lives when the oath is beckoned to stand up and to be counted. And the clerk, I suggest, makes the Constitution live by saying, I'm upholding it, okay? I'm upholding it in the midst of battle, in the swirl of controversy. I'm sitting here calmly because my oath was to this Constitution, and the high court opinion doesn't really address me. It can't absolve me of my oath before God to uphold this Constitution and record true marriages. So I won't. That I, your host here, David Toulis at Nooganomics.com, make in print. And if you'd like a copy of this little booklet, just email me. I'll be glad to send you a hard copy, or I can send you a digital file of good faith, and the county clerk. And the headline underneath it is Constitutional Government versus Gay Activism. Constitutional Government versus Gay Activism. And it's a very placating work, I think, because what I've tried to do is to show that there's no need to fear a high court opinion for gay marriage. It doesn't really apply here. It can be studiously ignored. It is null and void. And because it is extra constitutional, it is a bit of politicking by the judges, and is rightly just to be scorned as not binding anyone. And I know people esteem federal laws and federal judges very highly, but one that's clearly unconstitutional is not binding on anyone. No unconstitutional act or opinion is binding. It is a nullity and void. So ask me about that. My name is David Toulis. You can email me through Nuganomics.com. The website, again, is for the thinking man, and there's a window. You can drop me an email. I'll be glad to send that to you, either in hard copy or in a digital version. There's a story about the long legal jihad against natural marriage. I want to mention there are several cases that in which the High Court usurped states' rights, usurped states' authority to govern their own peoples or peoples within them. And it's an essay by Robert Knight. It appeared at One News Now, and it talks about some of the cases that helped destroy marriage already, and we can see the results of earlier decisions. It took 178 years from America's founding until the U.S. High Court found a right to privacy in the U.S. Constitutional. Griswold versus Connecticut, 1965, involved a challenge to Connecticut's law prohibiting the sale or distribution of contraception, even to married couples. And William O. Douglas, writing the decision, the court discovered a right to privacy in the penumbra of the Bill of Rights, largely based on the sanctity of marriage. And then there was another decision in 1972, Eisenstadt versus Baird. The High Court advanced the right of privacy beyond the marital relationship. Justice William Brennan cited Griswold for moral weight and then abandoned the premise on which it rested, the sanctity of marriage. The right of privacy shifted entirely to the individual. And then there's, of course, Roe v. Wade. And then in 1970, that was 73. In 1976, the court handed down that what Schwartz, as a writer that he cites here, calls the most outrageously anti-family decision ever, Planned Parenthood of Central Missouri versus Danforth. The ruling cuts fathers out of the picture when the court, striking down Missouri's laws requiring spousal consent before an abortion and parental consent before a minor's abortion. The court thus made marriage irrelevant to the most momentous decision, the taking or preserving of a human life that would be of a member of a family. In other words, that's not a family issue. In 77, Carey versus Population Services International, the court vacated a New York law that barred the sale of contraceptives to 15-year-old girls and younger. Parents no longer had the right to know if a teen is equipping himself or herself for premarital sex. And there are other decisions, all of which are you might say arrogating authority to the federal government and denying it to the states. Well, my name is David Toulis. I wanted to mention affordable computers. If you have a computer with a problem with clogged viruses and other baggage from internet use on that computer, have it looked at and get a repair, get an upgrade. You can even replace it. Affordable makes its own computers. They're all custom built. And if you have anything passing $600 or so, you will come out ahead, and it's cheaper to have it custom designed. And you can go there to this store. There's one on Highway 58 between the Arby's and the Taco Bell, and the second one in Fort Oglethorpe near Battlefield, on Battlefield Parkway near the Holcombs. And the affordable computer offers quick turnaround time. And call ahead if you like it, 499-1975. That's 499-1975. Also, want to mention Quick Surge. David Redd. He's a man who's leading the you might say the local economy counter-revolution against national economy and against insurance and government control of medicine. David Redd runs Quick Surge, a walk-in clinic on the North Shore in the Publix shopping center. He'll handle moles and skin tags, cuts, lacerations, and the like. He does not take insurance, but you have the advantage of quick service and a fixed price that's published on his website, and that is QUIKSURG.com. Quick Surge, QUIKSURG. David Red. Ask for him and have you don't have to deal with a third-party intervener in your medical life, in your medical situation. You deal directly with the doctor, and he makes his decisions based on your needs, not upon a chart given to him by the insurance company. So we're thinking today about deep state, deep local, and we have Ray Rollison telling us about the food hub here in Chattanooga, where he is laboring as part of the food bank. It's a food bank division, laboring to connect local farmers and providers of vegetables and fruits with local restaurateurs and local shoppers. That's deep local, right? That goes very much in the direction in which we need to think. We need to think about this. We need to be a part of it, and to support it. Well, what we're facing on the other side of the deep state is a runaway, you might say a runaway private secret interests, which are finding the military, finding the police apparatus very useful to itself. Charles Hugh Smith says that the deep state is not monolithic, though sometimes we present it that way. He says, in my view, this is an oversimplification of a constantly shifting battleground of paradigms and power among members of factions and alliances within the deep state. Disagreements are not publicized, of course, but they become apparent years or decades after the conflict was resolved, usually by one faction consolidating the deep state's groupthink around their worldview or strategy. And he says that there's a low-intensity conflict between the ruling elite, generally a good, healthy characteristic in good times, but times grow more troubled. The unity of the ruling elite fractures into irreconcilable political disunity, which becomes a proximate cause of the dissolution of the empire if it continues. And he is debating in this piece that came out of TwoMinds.com whether Wall Street has overreached with its financialization program, its endless creation of new debt, and its bubble. There are multiple bubbles on Wall Street. And he says, have we reached peak Wall Street? Consider what the extremes of Wall Street, Federal Reserve, predation, parasitism, avarice, and power have done to the nation. And then ask if other factions within the deep state are blind to the destructive consequences. And he has what I think is a very useful chart. It's called the Deep State Network. And he has a series of circles. And in each one is a word. One of the central points is the executive branch. We live in a kind of we live in a kind of despotism where the executive branch really has its way in almost every point. But the circles include this network, the shadow state, the national security state, the public-private state, if you will, with its institutions of propaganda, have all kinds of players. But at the center seems to be the executive branch, and then you've got Congress around it, K Street lobbies, State Department, federal regulators, the judiciary, the World Bank. And then further out, you've got official PR outreach, Madison Avenue, foundations and NGOs, political consultants, think tanks, corporate directors, global corporations, mainstream media, TV, and elsewhere, really connected directly still by a line to the executive branches, the Federal Reserve System and the Treasury, and beyond that, retail banking and mortgages. And of course, the federal regulators, all of the alphabet soup agencies, they're directly serving the executive branch. And just beyond them is Wall Street or Wall Street and investment bankers and hedge funds. And further on to the right, you've got the military complex with the Pentagon, the defense industry, intelligence, CIA, NSA, and so on. And special forces, there are black budget items that gets its own circle. And then at the top, you've got universities, which would include the Ivy Leaguers, research universities, and Silicon Valley. And this is the complex that make up all these interests, which is the deep state. They're not accountable to voters. They're not accountable to taxpayers. And Smith makes reference to an interview, which I took the time to read this morning with Peter Dale Scott, who has a book called, I've not read the book, but I'm thinking I need to, The American Deep State, Wall Street, Big Oil, and the Attack on Democracy. And the idea that he brings up is what he calls surplus repression. In other words, repression beyond what's necessary. And it assumes, of course, that repression is necessary, and maybe it is to some extent. But he says that the first part of continuity in government planning, COG planning, is this police state that we have is very strongly coming into view in the past year, and that well, I'd say in the past 2 years with Edward Snowden, the former NSA contractor. There are three main parts of that, and one is the warrantless surveillance, and that came in just after 9/11, just after COG was implemented for the first time on 9/11 itself. And of course, we all know about that now from Edward Snowden. And the second one is more ominous, and that's what Peter Dale Scott describes as warrantless detention. Everybody's subject to warrantless surveillance, but a lot of people feel, well, they're never going to detain me, so there's much less interest in it. But I can tell you, he says, if you're a Muslim in this country, you're very aware that right after 9/11, something like 1,000 Muslims were just rounded up, and rounded up pretty blindly. I talked to one of them. He wasn't even an Arab. He wasn't a Sunni. He was a Shia from Iran and an academic, and they just rounded him up, held him without warrant for 80 days. They beat him so severely that there was urine in his blood, and in the end, they just let him go and said, don't do anything to us, and we won't do anything to you. This is a huge scandal, and he says it makes me feel like we're in the condition of Nazi Germany in this respect, that this one group was so, and by the way, is still being persecuted. The mosques all through this country are filled with informants. They get a Muslim on a misdemeanor, and it's either jail or become an informant. It's been very demoralizing. Books have been written about the scandals happening here. The FBI has a very good set of guidelines on how to handle informants. They don't follow the guidelines. They should. So anyway, that's the second one, warrantless detention, and it's not a possibility. It is something that has happened. And the third one is the proclamation of martial law. And he cites Oliver North, who was talking about that. They didn't do it that way, but what they've done publicly is to militarize police work or Homeland Security, so that the U.S. Army is now involved in a permanent way in the business of policing the citizens. Of course, the question here is about the Posse Comitatus Act of 1875. One of the things I think is important, he says, is important enough to put in my first chapter, is there is now a permanent brigade that is permanently stationed at in the United States, and its job is to deal with civil disturbances. That is to say, if there's an anti-war rally and the police can't make anybody go home, and they certainly use pretty extreme techniques these days with their Humvees and so on, but if the police can't do it, then the military will come in, and it's worse than that, because the military is involved in surveillance, regular surveillance, all the time. Of course, we're in NORTHCOM, right? North America Command, and he says they're treating us this way in the way that they've learned to treat the rest of the world, and it's not good. And he says that the purpose of the Posse Comitatus Act, which again is the Posse Comitatus Act, allows for local government, allows for a local economy, because it prevents the military from being involved in municipal government and in state government and in elections, right? That's what happened with the occupation of the South after the war to prevent Southern independence. The Union Army essentially made elections. It kind of told people how to vote and prevented other people from voting, and disenfranchised many. Your ancestor, my listener's ancestor, was probably an unrepentant Confederate and was not allowed to vote. And so these acts were passed. He says, oh no, they're not being violated, but I think they clearly are, because the point now is, yes, you can bring the Army in an emergency. Well, that's the trick, you see, because officially we are in a state of emergency. We have been ever since September 14th, 2001, and we have a National Emergencies Act. These states of emergency are supposed to be reviewed, first of all, by the president. I'm really shocked that every year they get renewed. First by Bush, That wasn't surprising. He had instituted it in the first place. But Obama has continued to renew the emergency every September. He goes on to say, we can't have the public laws of the land being overridden by secret rules that nobody has ever seen, that were drawn up by people who weren't even in the government, including for 20 years Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney. They were planning all this starting in 1982 up until 2001, when the planning stopped. But lo and behold, on 9/11, on 9/11, 2001, they instituted the very rules that they had been planning for 20 years. Well, that's something that we have to understand is against us. It's against local economy. It's against liberty. It's against constitutional government. It suggests that we're not a free people, that we have continuity of government at the highest end of the national power. And insofar as you don't bother it, local economy doesn't bother it, that media discussion about such things don't bother it, well, you will be left alone and I will be left alone. But the problem is that you can't be sure. You cannot be sure. What with fusion centers around the country, we have them even here in Tennessee, where there's a constant soaking up of all data, all digital data, every Facebook post, every email, every snarky comment. And so there is a ranking among people, and certainly most critics of national government, most Republicans, most Tea Party people probably are just innocuous Facebook posters who link out to a critical article somewhere in a magazine, and that's the extent of it. But what we have to understand is that if there is going to be a drive for liberty, a drive for reformation, which Christianity calls for, then it's going to be something that really is not going to be visible to their apparatus at all. And here's why. Here's what rebuilding is. Here's what reconstruction, if you will, is about. It's not about necessarily being involved in national politics. It's not declaiming about the deep state and so on, as I have done today. That's not what brings reformation. Reformation, rebuilding, you could say, local economy, really involves buying local. It involves supporting your neighbor. It involves having your mother come out of that horrible nursing home and live in your house in that spare room. It involves saying, I think we need to homeschool the children, or at least we need to send the oldest one to that Christian school. That's part of it, right? If you do that, you are seceding from the machine. You are seceding from the system of human management, a pathological system that is inhuman. It's inhuman. It is purely rational. It operates purely rationally in terms of profit, inhumanly, right? It's abstract. If we can separate ourselves from those things and not invest in them, then we have a real chance. And so the enemy can't see the building, right? They can't see the building that Christendom always invites, and I would say Christendom demands. Christendom demands this kind of rebuilding, this kind of personal taking responsibility. And that has many things. I was reading in Leviticus 26 today with my son for family worship, the chapter on the blessings and the cursings. Well, busy highways, that's part of the blessings, right? Cursings would include that you run, that 50 of you run from 5 of the enemy, and you flee before them. When there's a blessing, what happens is that 5 of you, people like you, make 50 of them, and 1,000 of them flee. And there's a complete change in the heart of the people and the way they see their lives, the way they see their obligation to God, the way they might see their obligation to country. And the things that are really valuable, that will have durability, that will last, that will not even draw notice as criticisms of the modern machine, are things that are done at home. And they are, making love to your wife, having another baby, having confidence in the future, going to church, maybe helping start a church, right? I know you, my listener, you're not a Christian, but you have to understand that the Christian people have the answers, and perhaps they are long in getting them out there, and they're sort of privatized versions of Christianity, but they do have the truth. And I think what your job might be is to elicit some questions, ask questions of these people, these professing Christians, and say, well, what about this? What about that? What about you? Ask them hard questions, and they will either reform themselves or give you a bad answer. But you, my listener, need to be discerning about the shape of things to come. I think we need to prosper and be positive and optimistic despite the deep state, despite the lack of lawful government. We don't have lawful government. Are we surprised? Well, I don't think we should be surprised. How often is it we can see professing Christians not obeying God's laws? So why would we expect the national government to honor its laws? This is David Toulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.